The rain had been steady since sunset, slicking the streets in sheets of silver. Officer Daniel Cross gripped the steering wheel tighter. As his patrol car pulled into the narrow driveway of his small suburban home, the clock on the dash read 12:41 a.m. His shift had run late. A domestic call turned sour, stretching into hours. He hadn't called Emily. He figured she'd be asleep by now, curled up with a book, half open on her chest. But something felt wrong. Before he even cut the engine, the porch light was off. Daniel squinted through the windshield. The front door, usually locked with the deadbolt, was ajar. Just wide enough to catch the faint orange glow of a hallway lamp. Then he heard it. Muffled, frantic barking. Their lab, Max. Daniel threw the car door open and ran. His boots slapped against wet concrete. His hand hovered over his holster as he pushed the door wide open. "Emily?" he called, stepping into the darkness. "Noah?" The dog's barking grew louder from the hallway. Sharp. Panicked. What hit him first was the silence beneath the barking. No television hum. No lullaby from the baby monitor. The house, which usually sighed with life, even in sleep, was hollow. Dead. He reached for the light switch. Nothing. He grabbed the flashlight from his belt and flicked it on. The beam landed on shattered picture frames. Books scattered across the hallway. The hallway mirror had been smashed. Glass shards glittered beneath his boots. The scent of something sharp and metallic clung to the air. Then he heard it. A whimper. Weak. Coming from the living room. "Emily!" Daniel shouted again, his voice cracking. He rounded the corner. The flashlight's beam landed on her. Emily was crumpled on the floor beside the coffee table. Her nightgown soaked with blood. One hand clutching her side. Max stood beside her, barking at nothing and no one. Tail rigid. Daniel dropped to his knees. "Emily. Hey. Hey. Look at me. Stay with me." Her eyes fluttered open. Dazed. Her lips parted, she tried to speak, but only a faint rasp escaped. Daniel pulled off his jacket, pressing it against the wound on her side. "You're okay. You're going to be okay. I've got you. Just hold on." She moved her hand slightly, barely brushing his arm. Her lips trembled. They took him. Daniel froze. "What?" he asked, breath caught in his throat. "Who, Emily? Who took him?" She blinked slowly, her breath shallow. Her hand dropped from his arm. Her eyes slipped shut. "Emily, no. No. Stay with me." He fumbled for his radio. "Dispatch, this is Officer Cross. 10 to 10 at my residence. I need an ambulance, now. Victim is critical. Suspected home invasion. Child is missing, I repeat, child is missing." Max whimpered now, brushing his head against Emily's leg. Daniel stood, sweeping the flashlight across the room. The back window had been smashed clean through. Rain was leaking in through the shattered frame. The side door was wide open, its lock pried and broken. They'd come in through the back. He ran to the nursery. The mobile above the crib was still turning. One last lullaby playing from a music box on the shelf. The blanket that usually swaddled Noah was in a heap on the floor. His favorite stuffed elephant had been tossed aside, torn at the seam. "Noah," Daniel whispered, shining the light into every corner. But the crib was empty. No clothes. No shoes missing. Just, gone. He stepped back, hand over his mouth, trying to make sense of it. No signs of struggle here. No blood. Just absence. As if someone had slipped in, taken Noah, and vanished. He returned to the living room. Emily's breathing was faint but steady. He sat beside her, clutching her hand. Then his eyes landed on the shattered coffee table. A family photo lay beneath it. The glass cracked, but the image untouched. Him. Emily. And little Noah. 2 years old, grinning from ear to ear. Arms raised mid-giggle. Daniel picked it up with shaking fingers. "I'm going to find him," he whispered to the photograph. "No matter what it takes." The sound of sirens drew near. A wail through the rain, growing louder by the second. By the time the paramedics arrived, Daniel had already wrapped Emily in 2 blankets and kept pressure on the wound. He answered questions like a machine. Numb. Cold. But precise. No, he hadn't seen anyone leave the house. No, there was no known threat. No, he hadn't heard anything until he got home. But inside, he burned. The moment they loaded Emily into the ambulance, he followed behind in silence. But in his mind, something had already shifted. He wasn't just a husband. Or a cop. He was a father. Whoever had done this. Whoever thought they could rip his life apart and disappear into the night. They were wrong. Because he would never stop searching. Not until he found out who took his boy. Not until he got Noah back. Under gray skies. Years slipped by like whispers in the wind. The pain remained. Etched into every wrinkle on Daniel's face. His once black hair had faded to iron gray. The lines around his eyes, deeper. Etched by time and grief. The uniform was long gone. Now replaced by a muted suit. And the badge of a detective. But under the coat. Beneath the hardened exterior. He was still the man who had knelt beside his bleeding wife. 20 years ago. Clutching a family photo in trembling hands. That photo, now worn and creased. Remained in his wallet. Every case he took. Every night he stayed long after others went home. Led back to the same wound. The one that never closed. Detective Cross. A voice called across the lot. Daniel turned. It was Ramirez. His partner for the past 7 years. Young. Fast with his words. But sharp. The two made an unlikely pair. But it worked. Ramirez jogged over, holding a folder. "Intel just came through," he said, slightly winded. "The warehouse at Leanin and Fourth. They're moving tonight. You ready?" Daniel nodded once. "Let's roll." They moved fast. No hesitation. The task force had been zeroing in on the revenants for months. A trafficking ring that moved drugs, weapons, humans. Anything. And they moved it like ghosts. But tonight. They finally had something concrete. The convoy of unmarked SUVs coasted through the night. Headlights off. Radios crackling quietly with clipped confirmations. Rain tapped against the windshield. Just like it had that night. 20 years ago. Daniel shook the memory off. This wasn't the past. This was another job. Another raid. Another criminal empire to chip away at. He adjusted the Kevlar vest beneath his coat. Pulled his earpiece snug. Team 2, flank left. Wait for my mark. As the vehicles fanned out. Daniel and Ramirez took point. Crouching behind the corner of a loading dock. Visual on 2 guards. Ramirez whispered, motioning to a shadowy entrance. Could be more inside. Daniel gave a nod. On me. They moved in tandem. Clearing the perimeter in silence. Once the rear door was secure. The team breached. The warehouse erupted. Chaos. Shouts. Footsteps. Gunfire. Shadows scattered like roaches under light. Men in black hoodies darted between stacks of crates. Some surrendered. Most didn't. Daniel moved on instinct. Years of experience fused into every motion. Duck. Scan. Fire. Cover. A blur of adrenaline and strategy. But then. A moment crystallized everything. At the far end of the warehouse. A tall, young man burst from a side stairwell. Early to mid-20s. Sharp features. Black gloves. He moved differently. Coiled. Fast. Deliberate. Daniel raised his weapon. Freeze. The man turned. Raised a pistol. Fired. The shot missed Daniel's temple by less than an inch. He dove behind a crate. Splinters exploded around him. But in that split second, before the shooter turned to flee, Daniel saw it. A mark. A birthmark. Faint but distinct. Left cheek. Just beneath the eye. Curved like a bent teardrop. The shooter bolted through the loading bay doors. Vanished into the alley. By the time Daniel regrouped and gave chase, the man was gone. The warehouse was secured. Suspects in cuffs. Evidence tagged. Teams regrouping. But Daniel stood apart. Back pressed to a damp concrete wall. One hand gripping the edge of a support beam. The other, pulling something from his wallet. The photo. Frayed corners. Faded colors. A man. A woman. A boy. No older than 2. Round cheeks. Smiling. A stuffed elephant peeking from under his arm. Ramirez approached. "You okay?" Daniel didn't answer. He stared at the photo. Finally, he spoke. "Yeah. I'm fine." He tucked the photo away. Straightened. "Run a composite on the shooter. Get me footage from the north exit. And pull every report we've got on the Revenant's hierarchy. I want names. Aliases. Everything." Ramirez didn't argue. On it. Daniel sat alone in the data lab. Fingers drumming anxiously on the desk. Lines of code scrolled across the screen. The composite sketch was up. Sharp jawline. Clipped hair. Cold, calculating gaze. But it was the birthmark that turned unease into obsession. Facial recognition hit coming in. Ramirez said, walking in with a coffee. He placed it on the desk beside Daniel. Daniel glanced up. Drawn. Tired. Any match? Ramirez hesitated. Nothing in civilian or government records. Not under that face, anyway. Then run it through gang connections. Black market IDs. Anything. I already did. Ramirez pulled out a printout. There's one name it keeps bouncing back to. No ID photo. Just mentions in logs. Alex Voss. No birth certificate. No known family. Not even a driver's license. Daniel took the sheet. Read it. Alex Voss. Age, estimate 25. Role, second in command. Right hand of Marcus Voss. The Revenant's kingpin. Daniel looked up. Same last name. Not a coincidence. Ramirez replied. Word is, Marcus raised him like a son. Loyal. Trained. Ruthless. Daniel stared at a grainy security photo. It was him. The shooter. The man with the mark. He sat back. Mind reeling. No records. No family. He murmured. Like he didn't exist before. Yeah. Ramirez added. Like a ghost. Across town. Inside a luxury loft hidden within an untraceable high-rise. Marcus Voss stood facing the window. Arms crossed behind his back. Watching the city lights flicker like embers. Behind him. Alex Voss stood, stiff. Silent. Rain tapped the glass. Silence stretched. Marcus finally spoke. Voice calm. Smooth as oil. But his eyes, fire. You were careless. Alex didn't flinch. I take full responsibility. The shipment is gone. 12 men in cuffs. 2 dead. Marcus turned. Eyes narrowing. And Detective Cross. He saw you. Alex didn't answer. He already knew the consequences of failure in Marcus' world. Marcus stepped closer. Slow. Deliberate. One more mistake like that. And it won't just be the cops bleeding. Understood? Alex's jaw tensed. I'll take care of it. No loose ends. Marcus studied him. Then nodded. Good. You're my heir, Alex. I built this empire for you. But it won't mean anything if you can't control the field. Alex's expression didn't change. It won't happen again. Marcus clapped a firm hand on his shoulder. I raised you better than that. As Marcus walked away, Alex remained still. His gaze, heavy with thought. Daniel leaned over the light table, sifting through surveillance stills from various busts involving the revenants. Alex was there. Always near Marcus. Always just out of reach. Sometimes in sunglasses. Sometimes obscured by shadows. But the silhouette never changed. Daniel flipped through them. Fingers stopping on one. A shot of Alex at a distance. Walking beside Marcus. Later that evening. In a private training room. Deep within the Revenant's inner compound. Alex stood barefoot on a mat. Sweat glistened along his arms. As he worked through combinations. Kicks, blocks, feints. Each motion precise, controlled, mechanical. He stopped only when Marcus entered. Flanked by 2 men. I've reassigned you. Marcus said. You'll oversee the shipment through Ridgewater, personally. Alex tossed a towel over his shoulder. That area is too hot. Cross is already tracking the west docks. Marcus raised a brow. Are you suggesting I move the plan? I'm suggesting we run misdirection. Set up a dummy route. Let Cross hit it. While the real shipment goes south. Marcus smiled faintly. Now that sounds like the boy I raised. But something in Alex's eyes flickered. Something else? Marcus asked. Alex hesitated. Then said flatly. Why did you pull me from the mainland 5 years ago? The smile dropped. Marcus stepped forward. Lowering his voice. What kind of question is that? Alex didn't look away. I don't remember anything before the compound. You were young. It was dangerous to keep records. You know that. Alex gave a short nod. But the seed had been planted. And Marcus knew it. Darkness settled over the shipping terminal. At Bridgewater docks. Heavy clouds snuffed out the moonlight. Detective Daniel Cross stood behind a stack of crates. Alongside Ramirez. Gear weighed on his shoulders. Years of tension knotted between them. Tonight's plan was risky. A tight window. To intercept the revenants. Before they moved another shipment. Acting on fresh intel. The task force had assembled rapidly. Hoping to catch the syndicate off guard. The side exits clear. Ramirez murmured. We move on your mark, Daniel. A steady drizzle slicked the concrete. Reminding Daniel of that first night. 20 years ago. A haunted parallel. He'd rather not dwell on. All teams. He whispered. Go. A surge of adrenaline coursed through him. As officers advanced. Boots clattered. Hushed commands filled the air. Then. The first breach charge blew. Gunfire erupted. Ricocheting bullets struck metal rails and shipping containers. Chaos consumed the raid. Daniel sprinted between rows of stacked pallets. Staying low. Smoke stung his eyes. He heard Ramirez calling for backup. But his voice was lost. In the cacophony. He turned a corner. An unseen figure lunged at him. He swung his weapon up. A gloved hand knocked it aside. Another blow, across the jaw. He hit the ground. Vision blurred. Pain exploded behind his eyes. By the time he reached for his sidearm, it was too late. Men in dark tactical gear pinned him. They wrenched the gun from his hand. One slammed something hard into the side of his head. Blackness crept in. And the last thought before everything went dark was a single name. Noah. Daniel came to. Wrists bound to a metal chair. Ankles strapped tight. A flickering overhead light cast a pale glow across stained concrete walls. His cheek throbbed. He tasted blood. He exhaled sharply. Tested the bonds. Tight. No use. Securely trapped. Soft footsteps approached. Daniel raised his head. Blinking through the haze. A tall figure stepped into the light. Alex Voss. Same cold eyes. Same silent confidence. Two syndicate enforcers hovered. One flicked open a switchblade. Pressed the blade under Daniel's chin. The other rummaged through his pockets. Search him. Alex ordered. They ripped open Daniel's shirt. Checking for wires. Hidden devices. Daniel grimaced. Refused to cry out. Even as the blade nicked his skin. He stayed focused. Memorized the room. Door to the left. Dim stairs behind Alex. Humming generator. Maybe an old storage facility. A punch landed in Daniel's side. Another hit, to the ribs. Pain stabbed through him. But he choked back the groan. Alex gave a small nod. The hit ceased. Where's your team? He asked. Who else knows about this location? Daniel spat out a coppery taste. Go to hell. An enforcer raised a fist. Alex held up a hand. Silence. He stepped closer. Eyes drifting to the wallet on the table. Detective Daniel Cross. You've been a thorn in our side for a while. One enforcer flipped through the wallet. Pulled out a faded photo. Folded. Creased. His sneer turned to confusion. Boss. He called. Held out the photo. Alex snatched it. Let the overhead light wash over it. A man. A woman. A bright-eyed toddler. With the same distinct mark. Under his left eye. Alex's brow furrowed. He raised the photo. Who's this kid? Though his vision swam. Daniel forced himself to speak. My son. He was taken. 20 years ago. Alex's eyes flicked. Between Daniel and the photo. Taken? Yeah. Daniel rasped. He was only 2. Color drained from Alex's face. 20 years. Exactly how old he might have been. If he were that child. He tightened his grip on the photo. Knuckles whitening. The room felt smaller. Hotter. Alex strode away. Still holding the photo. He scanned Daniel's eyes, searching for a lie. Then spun on his heel, striding toward the exit. Keep him alive. He muttered to his men. I'm not done yet. In the doorway's half-light, he paused, shoulders tense. Then he stepped out, leaving Daniel alone with his captors. Later that afternoon, Alex found Marcus in the main office, reviewing syndicate schedules. Lavish furniture, dim lights, expensive liquor lined on a glass shelf. Alex entered quietly, stopped a few feet from the desk. We need to talk. Marcus eyed him. About the next move. I already have men. About my past. Alex interrupted, voice tight. Marcus' expression shifted. He closed the folder. That's a strange question. I've never asked before. Alex said. But lately I've been wondering why there's nothing about me. Before I turned 5. Marcus leaned forward, elbows on the desk. We've been over this. You came to me alone. No family. I gave you a life. Shaped you. Everything you have. You owe to the revenants. And my parents? Alex pressed. Really gone? Marcus' gaze flickered. You're smarter than this, Alex. Don't dig into ghosts. It'll cloud your judgment. Silence. Thick. Tense. I'm just trying to understand who I am. Marcus stood. Set a hand on Alex's shoulder. Remember. I made you. Anyone else claiming otherwise is trying to use you. Trust me. Frustration surged in Alex. But he nodded. Kurt. Don't forget. Marcus said quietly. Everything I've built can be taken away. In an instant. Under the pretense of an off-site assignment, Alex slipped away from the compound. He visited a rundown apartment complex on the city's outskirts. A place where older Revenant members had drifted. After retirement, he knocked on the door of Ramon Pierce, a former enforcer, long vanished from syndicate business. The door opened a crack. A cautious eye peered through. Ramon recognized him. Tensed. Leave me alone. Alex stepped through the threshold. I need information. The living room was cluttered. Fraying furniture. Dim lighting. Marcus has eyes everywhere. Ramon muttered, pacing. I'm asking about me. Alex clarified. He pulled out the photo. Held it up. Let Ramon see the child's face. 20 years ago, a cop's son was taken. This child has the same birthmark. Ramon went pale. Where did you get that? Answer me. Ramon glanced at a half-empty liquor bottle. Took a shaky breath. I left because I couldn't stomach certain things Marcus did. Some called it revenge. Alex's heart pounded. Revenge against who? A cop. Daniel Cross. Ramon met his gaze. Marcus said that cop ruined his life during a bust. So he took the cop's son. Raised him in the syndicate. Gave him a new name. Alex staggered back. Sank onto a battered chair. You're lying. He hissed. Voice quivering. I wish I was. Ramon whispered. But I saw you. When Marcus first brought you in. A toddler. Confused. Images flashed through Alex's mind. Nightmares. Now feeling like memories. A woman's soft voice. A man's strong arms. A bright living room that smelled of home. Ramon gently took the photo. You weren't born into this. You were stolen. Alex stood abruptly. Reclaimed the photo. Breathing ragged. Anger. Betrayal. Colliding. Without another word. He turned and left the apartment. Night had fallen. By the time Alex reached his car, the city lights shimmered in puddles on the asphalt. Everything felt strange. As if the ground beneath him had tilted. He slid into the driver's seat. Gripping the steering wheel. Chest tight. His reflection stared back in the rearview mirror. A man lost to himself. No longer certain. He was Alex Voss at all. Memories flickered. Marcus teaching him to fight. To shoot. To obey. The father figure he'd trusted. Now revealed. As the orchestrator. Of a 20-year-old revenge plot. Slowly. Alex set the photo on the passenger seat. Next to his holstered gun. The man in the picture. The detective he'd interrogated. The woman. A stranger with kind eyes. The toddler. Himself. Before the lie. He started the engine. Headlights cut through the dark. He needed the truth. From the man still captive. Under Marcus' orders. As he drove back toward the syndicate headquarters. One thought echoed through his mind. If my entire life is built on a lie. What am I now? When Alex returned to the compound. Dawn was breaking. Pale light stretched through narrow windows. He hadn't slept. His thoughts looping around the revelation. He might be Daniel Cross's abducted son. He paused outside Marcus' office. Stealing himself. Then stepped inside. Marcus stood at the window. Posture tense. Phone in hand. At Alex's approach. He ended the call. Where have you been? Marcus demanded. Verifying some details. Alex replied. Trying to keep his tone neutral. Marcus' eyes narrowed. Searching his face. You look like you've seen a ghost. Alex took a breath. The cop, Daniel Cross. We need to reconsider how we handle him. Marcus' expression flickered. Fear. Anger. Disgust. It was hard to tell. We've spent enough time on that detective. He knows our network. He's seen your face. End it. A chill crawled over Alex's skin. You want me to kill him? Tonight. Marcus said bluntly. And keep it clean. Alex left the office. Marcus' warning echoing in his ears. No more mistakes. He made his way down. To the lower level. The place where Daniel Cross was being held. Each step heavier. Then the last. The corridor reeked. Of damp concrete. And old sweat. Guards stepped aside. Recognizing Alex. Their gazes flicked with curiosity. They knew. An execution order. When they saw one. At the end of the hall. He paused outside the cell door. Fists clenched. Daniel sat inside. Battered. Bound. He was Alex's father. Though the word felt foreign. Alien. The door creaked open. Daniel lifted his bruised face. Bloodied. But resolute. So. He said softly. They sent you. Alex stepped closer. Glanced at the bruise. Along Daniel's jaw. Marks from syndicate fists. Why me? Alex asked. His voice low. Why does it have to be me? Daniel sighed. Because Marcus wants to test your loyalty. That's what he's always done, right? Push you. Make you do the unthinkable. The word hit Alex like a punch. You knew. He asked. I suspected. Daniel answered. He's twisted everything around you. But you can break free. Alex shook his head. How can I trust you? My whole life, I believed Marcus saved me. Daniel's voice softened. You ever wonder where you really came from? Why nothing before age 5 makes sense? Why your memories never felt whole? Alex looked away. Silence stretched. Daniel leaned forward. You're not a criminal, Noah. The name hung in the air. It ached in Alex's chest. I know you feel it too. Alex clutched the keys to the cuffs. Heart pounding. Daniel watched him. Eyes steady. Wounded. Hopeful. Your mother's name is Emily. He whispered. She survived that night. She never stopped searching for you. Neither did I. Alex's eyes stung. Memories. Voices. Images. Flickers of another life. He reached behind the chair. Unlocked the cuffs. Each click. A shift in the foundation of his world. Daniel groaned. Rubbing his chafed wrists. Before either man could speak. The cell door swung open. Marcus stood there. 2 armed guards behind him. Well. Marcus said. A brittle smile curling. This is cozy. Go on, son. Do it. He nodded toward the gun. At Alex's belt. Finish him. A heartbeat passed. Alex's hand drifted toward the weapon. But everything inside him screamed. No. Marcus stepped forward. Fury rising. After everything I've done for you. You hesitate. You want to betray me now. For him. Daniel pushed to his feet. Still weak. He's not yours, Marcus. Marcus' face twisted. He gestured to the guards. A silent threat. In a flash. Daniel surged forward. He snatched Alex's knife from its sheath. Looped an arm across Alex's chest. Pressed the blade near his throat. The guards froze. Guns raised. Daniel panted. No one fires. Or he dies. Marcus' eyes flared. You wouldn't hurt him. Daniel swallowed. Not willingly. But I'm not dying here. The guards exchanged glances. Uncertain. Marcus clenched his jaw. Calculating. Daniel slowly backed toward the open cell door. Alex tense in his grip. No fear. Just breath. Waiting. At the corner. Daniel pushed Alex aside. Spun. Chaos erupted. The guards lunged. Daniel slipped into a side passage. Sirens rang. Alarms blared. Don't let him out. Marcus shouted. But it was too late. Daniel vanished. Into the maze of corridors. Leaving behind only echoing footsteps. And a raging kingpin. Alex stood. Hand to his throat. Mind reeling. Unsure whose side he was on. Or if he had any side left. At all. Detective Daniel Cross stormed. Through the precinct doors. At first light. Bruised. Ribs aching. Mind burning. Officers paused. Startled by his disheveled appearance. He ignored them. Headed straight for the operations room. Ramirez spotted him. Rushed over. Where the hell did you go? He demanded. After the raid, we couldn't find you. Daniel pressed a hand to his bandaged side. Long story. But I got out. Anything else? Ramirez asked. Daniel hesitated. The truth itched. Just beneath his tongue. Later. He muttered. First, I need to see Captain Miller. Then I'm going home. Ramirez nodded. Concern simmering. But restrained. He led Daniel to the captain's office. Captain Miller leaned forward. You're saying the Kingpin's right-hand man is your son? Daniel closed his eyes. Opened them. Voice low. I believe so. He goes by Alex Voss now. But I'm certain he's Noah. Miller let out a breath. We've suspected for years. Your son's disappearance wasn't random. Direct contact. Daniel said. Same birthmark. No records before age 5. It's him. Miller studied him. Then nodded. We'll prepare accordingly. But Cross, this changes nothing. About the Revenant's threat level. Daniel nodded. Understood. But deep inside, he knew everything had changed. By the time Daniel parked in the driveway, the morning sun had climbed high. Emily opened the door before he even knocked. Her eyes wide with worry. He barely got a word out before she threw her arms around him. Tears dampened his shoulder. God, Daniel, she whispered, pulling back just enough to see the bruises on his face. They said you disappeared. I'm all right, he murmured, holding her close. But there's something I need to tell you. Let's sit down. They moved to the couch. Emily placed a gentle hand on his arm. Her voice trembling. What happened? Daniel took her hand. For a moment, he fought the urge to sugarcoat it. To protect her from another heartbreak. But she deserved the truth. I know who the Kingpin's lieutenant is, he said quietly. It's Noah. Our son. Emily's hand flew to her mouth. Eyes flooding with tears. Noah. She breathed. Voice breaking. He's alive. A whirlwind of emotions passed over her face. Relief. Anguish. Joy. Terror. 20 years of unanswered prayers now had a name. And a face. She squeezed Daniel's hand so tight it hurt. How can you be sure? She asked. Daniel reached into his jacket. Pulled out the old photo. Creased. Faded. Worn by time. He has the same birthmark. Daniel said. Voice wavering. And I spoke to him. He didn't believe me at first. But part of him knows. Emily pressed the photo to her chest. Tears rolling freely. Our Noah. I've prayed for this moment. She closed her eyes. Inhaled shakily. Is he safe? How is he? Daniel's heart twisted. He's dangerous, Emily. He's been raised by Marcus Voss. Groomed to run the syndicate. He's different now. But I believe he can come back. She nodded. Wiping her tears. We won't lose him again. She said firmly. Like a fact. She rose. Stepping to the mantel. Another photo of Noah rested there. A baby picture. Framed in gold. She touched the glass. Fingertips trembling. There's going to be another raid, isn't there? She asked softly. Daniel moved behind her. Slipped an arm gently around her waist. Yes. The captain's planning a final takedown. We have new intel. It won't be long. She turned. Eyes brimming with fear. Promise me. Her voice cracked. If it comes down to it. You won't pull the trigger. His throat tightened. Emily, He's our son. She insisted. It might not mean anything to the department. But it means everything to us. If there's even a chance. She broke off. Tears threatening to fall again. Daniel gently cupped her cheek. He's our son, Emily. I couldn't hurt him. Even if I tried. Emily smoothed back his hair. Careful of the bruises. You have to bring him home. Daniel nodded. Silently vowing. No matter how dangerous it got. He wouldn't lose Noah again. He'd fight tooth and nail. To free his son. From Marcus' grip. A soft beep from Daniel's phone broke the moment. Ramirez was calling. Duty summoned. He gave Emily a final embrace. Promising to update her as soon as he could. As Daniel drove back to the precinct. The morning sky turned from pale pink. To brilliant blue. The contrast felt symbolic. A fresh start. Trying to push through. The darkness. But he knew. The danger was real. Marcus would strike again. And next time. It wouldn't just be a scuffle. It would be war. The industrial harbor buzzed. With tension. Sirens wailed in the distance. Squad car lights split the dimness. Detective Daniel Cross stood behind a shipping container. Bulletproof vest strapped tight. Heart pounding. Around him. Cargo crates towered like steel walls. Idle trucks. Hiding places for the syndicate. Radio chatter crackled. Teams reporting in. Every route sealed. No way out. 20 years of regret. Coalesced into this moment. If he could end Marcus Voss tonight. Maybe he could save Alex too. The boy. Who might still be. His son. A loud command pierced the air. Tactical teams surged forward. Guns drawn. Formations tight. Gunfire erupted. Muzzle flashes lit up grim faces. Shouts echoed. Bullets ricocheted off metal. Daniel moved low. Weaving through smoke and noise. Through the haze. He saw enforcers. Retreating toward a warehouse. He followed. Ribs aching. Blood pulsing. Eyes locked forward. He knew. Marcus would be inside. The warehouse interior was dark. A few lamps flickered from above. Tall shelving rows made a maze of shadows. Footsteps echoed. Quick. Urgent. Daniel pressed against a crate. Listening. Gunfire behind him. Voices shouting. He spotted Marcus. Broad-shouldered. Coat flapping behind him. In an instant. They locked eyes. Time stopped. Then Marcus fired. Daniel Dove. Returned fire. Chased him. The chase led deeper. Lights flickering. Steel echoing. At last. Cornered. Marcus turned to face him. Near a sealed loading bay. His gun empty. He tossed it aside. Daniel raised his weapon. But Marcus lunged. The pistol flew from Daniel's hands. They grappled. Fists. Elbows. Blood. Raw. Vicious. Silent. Marcus slammed Daniel into a crate. Daniel fought back. Weaker, but driven. A brutal elbow. To Daniel's jaw. Sent him to the floor. Marcus loomed over him. Snatched up a fallen handgun. He leveled it at Daniel's head. Chest heaving. Blood trickled down Daniel's face. He stared up. Go ahead. He breathed. Finish what you started. Marcus' finger tightened. Then. A shot rang out. Not from Marcus. From the side. He staggered. Gun dropped. Clutching his bleeding arm. "You!" Marcus roared. Alex stepped from the shadows. Gun lowered. "You lied to me," he said. "You made me your weapon. Twisted everything I knew." Marcus' eyes flicked. From Alex to Daniel. Rage burning. "You stole me from my real family." Alex growled. "For 20 years. You used me." Daniel, still on one knee, locked eyes with him. He saw it. The birthmark. The doubt. The man. Beneath the soldier. Marcus lunged for his weapon. Daniel kicked it away. Sirens neared. Officers flooded the warehouse. Guns raised. Shouts echoing. Alex took one step toward Daniel. Silent. Staring. Daniel rose. Bruised. Breathless. "Noah." He whispered. The name. Tumbled awkwardly. From his lips. But before Alex could answer. A shout from the entrance. Then. A gunshot. Time slowed. Alex jerked. His gun clattered. He dropped to his knees. "Sniper." Someone yelled. Daniel's heart dropped. He rushed forward. Panic driving him. "No. Noah. Stay with me." Alex's eyes fluttered. Blood bloomed on his jacket. Another shot. Grazed a support beam. High above. An officer tackled the sniper. Daniel skidded to Alex's side. Grabbed his hand. "I'm here," he whispered. "We found you. You're coming home." Alex tried to speak. Blood on his lips. The ambulance doors burst open at the hospital bay. A flurry of medical staff whisked Alex inside. Daniel was left standing in the corridor. Chest heaving. For a second. He stood frozen. Overwhelmed. By the swirl of adrenaline. Fear. And fragile hope. Nurses came and went. Their urgency pulling Daniel. Into a memory. He'd paced these same halls. 20 years ago. Praying for Emily to live. Now. His son's life hung in the balance. Ramirez appeared beside him. Squeezing Daniel's shoulder. The doc said. "They'll do everything they can." Hours passed. The hospital's fluorescent lighting played tricks on Daniel's exhausted eyes. Finally. A doctor emerged from surgery. Removing his mask. Daniel stood. Bracing. Dreading. "He's alive," the doctor said. "The bullet nicked an artery. But we managed to stop the bleeding. He's critical. But stable." Relief hit Daniel like a wave. His knees buckled. He sagged against the wall. "Thank you," he whispered. The doctor nodded. "He'll be in ICU. For the next 24 hours. Visiting is limited." "Are you family?" Daniel didn't hesitate. "I'm his father." When they finally allowed him in. Daniel stepped into the dim room. Alex lay still. Hooked to monitors. Breathing supported by tubes. The oxygen mask obscured half his face. But the birthmark. The one that had haunted Daniel. For years. Was still there. Daniel sank into a chair beside the bed. He took Alex's hand gently. The beep of the heart monitor. Was a lullaby of survival. He watched his son. His grown son. And for the first time. In 2 decades. He didn't feel alone. Elsewhere in the city. Marcus Voss sat at a metal table. Cuffed. Bandaged arm trembling. Anger simmered in his eyes. Behind the one-way glass. Detective Daniel Cross watched. Captain Miller questioned the kingpin. Marcus leaned forward. Voice cold. You want to know why I took his son? He sneered. Because Cross took mine first. Captain Miller's brow furrowed. Explain. My family died in a bust. Marcus hissed. She was pregnant. Cops raided a building. Bullets flying. They were caught in the crossfire. He glanced toward the mirror. Daniel Cross led the bust. Maybe he pulled the trigger. Maybe he didn't. But I lost everything that day. Daniel's heart froze. His memory strained. He'd handled hundreds of raids. But that one. He couldn't forget now. I took his son. Raised him. Bent him to my will. That's justice, isn't it? Captain Miller's voice turned steel. You call kidnapping and brainwashing a child justice? Marcus stared ahead. Eyes hollow. Unapologetic. Days later. Daniel and Emily stood in the hospital hallway. Waiting. A nurse pushed Alex out. In a wheelchair. He was pale. In plain civilian clothes. But alive. His gaze. Clearer now. Ready? Daniel asked softly. Alex nodded. I think so. They helped him into an unmarked vehicle. Plainclothed officers flanked them. Alex still faced charges. But for now. His testimony could dismantle the revenants for good. The trial began. Under media spotlight. Reporters crowded the courthouse. Cameras flashed. Headlines swarmed. Inside the courtroom. A hush fell. Marcus Voss was led in. In a suit. But stripped of control. Witnesses testified. Law enforcement. Victims. Former syndicate members. Each story. Chipped away. At Marcus Empire. Brick by brick. Then. Alex took the stand. He moved slowly. Still healing. But determined. He gave names. Dates. Codes. Locations. Networks. When asked why he turned. He glanced at Daniel in the gallery. I learned who I really am. Marcus took me. From my parents. From the life I was meant to have. Marcus' face flickered. Anger. Maybe regret. But Alex didn't stop. He carved a path. Toward truth. The jury deliberated. For just 2 hours. The evidence was overwhelming. Guilty. On all counts. Murder. Kidnapping. Trafficking. Life in prison. No possibility of parole. Marcus didn't speak. Didn't look at anyone. Just a sneer. He was led past Alex. Their eyes met. Marcus said nothing. Alex looked down. The final tie was severed. A week later. Alex stood before the same judge. This time. Alone. He had cooperated. But he still carried a criminal record. Assault. Trafficking. Weapons. The prosecutor acknowledged his value. The law required accountability. A reduced term. With possibility of parole. The gavel fell. Sentence passed. Daniel closed his eyes. A silent prayer. For a true redemption. Months passed. One crisp morning. Daniel and Emily entered the prison. Visitor badges clipped. The room was cold. Guardrails and plexiglass. Alex emerged from a side door. Wearing the prison uniform. Still standing. Still fighting. They met at a small table. Daniel reached out first. "How are you feeling?" Emily asked. Alex glanced around. Shoulders tense. "Better. It's quiet here." There was relief in his voice. No missions. No guns. No Marcus. Just time. To heal. Daniel leaned forward. "We couldn't save you then. But we're here now. And we're not going anywhere." Emily nodded. "We've spent 2 decades waiting. We'll wait as long as it takes." Alex bowed his head. Overwhelmed. "I never got to say it before." He looked at Daniel. "Thank you, Dad." The guard signaled. Time was up. Daniel and Emily rose. Each embraced their son. A trembling, careful hug. Alex squeezed back. As if afraid it would vanish. Walking back through the gates. Daniel felt a familiar ache. Grief. For what was lost. Hope. For what might be rebuilt. Emily slipped her hand into his. That one gesture. Reminded him. They still had each other. And now. They had him too. The sky was clear. Sun rising on a bright horizon. For the first time in years. Daniel felt. Possibility. The road ahead would be long. Alex still had time to serve. But the ties were real. The family. Whole enough. To begin healing. Blood. After all. Was thicker than revenge. And now. The future. However uncertain. Carried a spark of faith. That a father. A mother. And their son. Could one day. Share a life. Free from the shadows. That once consumed them. I never thought. Didn't know if this could happen. Medics rushed in. Daniel wouldn't let go of his hand. Machines beeped. IVs inserted. Pressure applied. Urgency everywhere. They loaded Alex into an ambulance. Daniel climbed in beside him. He held his son's hand. All the way to the hospital.